Good morning, people. Happy St. George's Day. It is Sunday morning, April 23rd. My old English teacher reminds us that it is also Shakespeare's birthday, apparently. So there you go. A mine of useless information. This is the second Sunday in a row that I've got out on the bike in the morning. And I know it's not as super early, I think, as it was last week. I was running about 15 minutes late. But nevertheless, out here I am. Now, I checked the weather again. Once again, the Met Office seems to be doing its best to sow doom and gloom. Right, so what's the purpose of today's ride? Not that you need a purpose for a ride, obviously, but today's ride does have a purpose. I recently got my insurance renewal through, which reminded me that I've now had this bike for 2 years. And I had my previous bike, the R1250 RT, for 3 years. And this crash hat was bought at the time I got the red bike. So according to my maths, let's see, you need to divide by 5 and multiply by 9. Then you need to carry the 2... 5! Yes, 5 years. And wisdom would have us believe that for a good quality crash hat, it'll last you 5 years, so it's time to replace this one. So I'm heading down to my favourite localish bike shop. For some reason, I also had the notion that this summer I might need a mesh jacket. So we'll see what they've got in stock. I've already looked at their website, and for anything approaching my size, stock is already severely limited. What are you guys doing out there, buying up all the mesh jackets I want to buy? But there is one I'm particularly interested in looking at. And I would also like to try and introduce to you, formally, I guess a new piece of camera kit. I've already taken it up to Scotland and it's been proving very useful, so you'll see that footage when I get around to uploading it. But since I've already done a couple of episodes of New Year, New Gear, I thought, well, here's 3 more bits of new gear I'm looking at. Maybe I ought to make an episode 3. Gonna use some studio time, listen to me, here to show you some of the new camera kit I've bought for 2023. So for quite some time I've been thinking about how to add a second camera angle to my motorcycle as I ride along. There is nowhere on the RT to mount a second camera. I've looked at all the bits of tubular framing there's always little bits of plastic that are really close up. There's just nowhere to put a little grip on, there's nowhere to clamp anything, there's nowhere to secure anything, there's no spare bolts really to try and fix anything. It's been quite frustrating. Those of you who saw my first ever video will remember that one of the things I said is I don't trust those little sticky units, you know, the suction cup things that stick to the paintwork. And with those restrictions, I've completely failed to come up with anything. So I've had to make a concession. And with that in mind, let me introduce you to the bits of kit that I got. Firstly, you're all aware I use Insta360 stuff. This is a second Insta360 camera I bought and it has the Insta360 selfie stick, and you'll also notice there's a RAM 1-inch ball on the end. And the reason for that is that this fits into one of these, which clamps a ball at each end, and then that clamps into this. You will notice its suction pads. I've rolled back on the idea of not using suction pads because it's the only solution that's available to me. This will go on top of one of the side luggages. And because I don't trust them, I've made sure I've bought a dual unit, which, you know, if one of them unclips or unsticks, then the other one should save the day. Not only that, I also bought a set of mobile phone wrist strap holders, and it acts as a tether, which, should the worst happen, will stop me losing the camera. Now, this stuff has been tested now in the Scotland trip. There was only one instance where one of these suction cups came unstuck, and I suspect it's because I didn't do enough diligence in attaching it in the first place. So this was one of my first attempts. And yeah, ever since then, it has actually spent hours on the bike without any kind of problem whatsoever. So maybe my lack of trust is unfounded. Nevertheless, I still use the tether. There is, however, one problem. Let me put all this kit together and show you what the problem is. So I've now put everything together, and let's see if you can figure out what the problem is. What does this remind you of?
Syncing up TodgerCam.
No sniggering at the back. If you're going to be that immature, you just pause the video, recover yourself, and then I'll continue, okay? The actual problem is that when this is extended, and it's very difficult with this camera angle to show you, when this is extended, there's a lot of waving around in the wind, and even with the 360's stabilization, you can kind of see, especially when you get a camera angle that's looking back at the bike, looking back at the back of the rider, you can see the bike bouncing up and down like this while the scenery stays stationary. Now, this is a problem that my brother on the Slow Rider channel has fixed by having a little extra linkage clamped about here, which he clamps to the rest of his luggage. Now, he, like me, has a top box, and I started looking at more of the RAM mount stuff on the website, and yes, I spent a bit more money because these things are not super cheap. So I came up with this after perusing the RAM mount website for a while. So this end is another suction cup which will stick onto the front of the top box, and then this clamp will clamp around the selfie stick, which will hopefully make it a lot more stable.
Unsuitable for wide vehicles, oh dear. I guess my RT isn't quite as wide as would make me worried about that sign. Oh, a few spots of rain on the screen. Was I unfairly maligning the Met Office earlier? I think we'll be okay. I was toying whether just to turn left and turn round on a big roundabout or something, but I don't want to head south if that's where the rain's coming from. Right, let's try and out-accelerate the weather. A507. Now you're turning right, aren't you? Ah! Smell of farmers in the air, so better watch out for dumped all over the road. I hope I remember my credit card. To remember not to go too fast, I've got that camera sticking up on the back. And if there's one thing that Scotland taught me on that score is that wind resistance is a pig. Had the camera selfie stick on a ball joint there, just bending lower and lower and lower and lower until it was like 30 degrees rather than the 60 I set it up at. Oh good, my sat-nav has decided to give up the ghost. It's stuck. Fortunately, I kind of know the route. Phone call. That was the lovely, well, how shall I say, Miss Throttle Up. She decided to drive to the bike shop and do the cheaty shortcut down the main dual carriageways. And she's never ready. He says, I'm downstairs. I'm going, well, I kind of guessed that. No, at the bike shop. I was planning to utilise my capacious storage capacity to carry all the things that I'm needing to carry, assuming I have them in stock, of course, on my way home on this bike. But since Miss Throttle Up is there, maybe I can just dump it in her car. So here we are in sunny Stevenage, in the old town on the high street. And a little way up ahead, if I remember which way I've come in from, there is a marvellous little motorcycle store, or motorcycle clothing store, accessory store, called Bike Stop. I feel I'm getting close to it. There we go. I think that's it. Is that it, or is it a bit further? No, there we can actually see the motorcycles trying to park. Am I going to be able to get in? Where are you going? Oh. Thank you. Wow, that second camera has definitely bent down in the wind, hasn't it? I really need to sort my speed out. Alright, so here we are at Bike Stop, and we're going to be looking at getting that crash hat and that summer jacket. And seeing the lovely Miss Throttle Up, of course. Right, see you in a short while. Okay. Here we go. Heading back home. Well, a 50% success rate. Despite their computer systems saying that they had the crash hat I wanted in my size, they didn't. So that'll be for a later date. But they did have exactly the mesh jacket I was looking for. Which is a brand new one from Knox. It seems to fit me quite well. Despite my expanding girth.
So, as you saw in the earlier part of the video, I went to the bike shop and the computer, despite saying they had a crash hat for me in stock, they actually didn't. So this is now several days later and I now have my new crash hat. So here is, excuse me. So here is the old one. It's familiar to all of you who know my channel. It's my trusty Shoei Neotech 2 modular helmet, which I decided not to go with the Senna unit that plugs into here, just because of what I've read about Senna versus Cardo, and Cardo being the better unit. So I decided to go for Cardo. So that's the base plate there, and here's the Cardo mic, and here's the lavalier mic that I use to actually record my videos. So the other end of this goes into a TodgerCam audio unit, which I have in my pocket. As I mentioned earlier on, it's 5 years old now. Although it's entirely possible that the amount of mileage I've done doesn't really warrant a replacement at this stage. I've decided the time has come to get a new crash hat. This has been an absolutely brilliant crash hat. I mean, it is a little on the heavy side. It's a modular helmet, so they've got all the extra gubbins for the hinges and all that kind of stuff in here. They've got the extra stuff to accommodate the Senna unit that they marketed along with it, that I ended up not buying. But it's been a great crash hat. But what do I replace it with? So here's the new one. I want it to be a kind of unveil. You can probably guess what's going to happen, especially if you see my second ever video. You'll probably know exactly what's going to happen. I decided, judging from my experiences of the Neotech 2 down there, that, and I don't know, maybe not very much research, I decided to go with exactly the same again. So this is an exact replacement. It's another Shoei Neotech 2. It's white. And at some point I'm going to be having to move all of the audio kit in that one into this one. There's a little bit of a difference I've noticed. Around about the neck area here, the straps have extra little flappy bits, which I guess are designed to keep a little more wind out. It might mean that this is an even quieter helmet than that one was. But yes, I was so happy with that one, I've decided to go with the same one again. So before I start wearing this in anger, I'm going to have to go and get some replacement sticky pads for the Cardo mic placement. I've no idea how long that will take to turn up, or if you can just get them from Amazon. I just need to go do that. But then I'll be wearing my brand new crash hat.
I'm going to try and get to the north of this weather. So this is going to be a dual carriageway slog up to the delightful town of Biggleswade, and then we'll be cutting across towards the Cambridgeshire area from there. I wonder if I'm in the right lane. This is A1 south, so I want A1 north really. Take it easy through here, but it gives me the opportunity to switch lanes. Oh. Thank you. I told you to give me the opportunity to switch lanes. It gives me the opportunity to get to the front. And at just the right time as well. Splendid. Right, just set the cruise for 70 because of the camera on the top there waggling about in the wind. I have to ask what the point of that was. He's obviously in a hurry. Now, I, as a car driver, know how tedious seeming and frustrating it is to have to drop down a couple of miles an hour, and when you're just coming up against an overtake, you'd much rather pull out into the next lane and get past than stay behind someone. But when you're actually exiting the dual carriageway in a couple of 100 yards, it's just why bother overtake like that? Okay, this might be my turn. Yes. Oh, hang on, no, that's a straight on. What? Are we sure? Our third exit. Yes, the little symbol on my sat-nav says straight on 3. Okay, no, third exit is right. Okay, this roundabout's a little bit nasty. You get around halfway round and suddenly it tightens up. It really tightens up. Right here. Okay, so I hope I've spared you a whole bunch of A1 drudgery. We are now going on a bit more fun stuff, and so I'll probably take the opportunity now to pick up where I left off, which was they didn't have the crash out in stock despite the computer saying yes. But I did get the mesh jacket, the one that I thought I was going to be getting. It's a Knox unit, and when I got my mesh gloves, they were Knox, and the difference they made in the hot summer was astonishing. Obviously what they're made of allows easily enough airflow through to keep you cool, and have the armour to keep you protected. So Knox was the brand I was looking at, especially when their website said all of the other stuff in your sizes is sold out. It's April. Who's that forward thinking in April to go buy mesh gear? That means there's none left in my size when I want to buy some. Nevertheless, the one I was actually looking at is the one they had. So 50% success on this mission today. And the weather is off to the south, and I got away from Stevenage pretty much before the worst of it came in. So that's a bonus point, a bonus gold star for the mission. I decided, since the weather is coming up from the south, I would head north to avoid it, and that puts me coincidentally on one of my favourite roads. Pure coincidence. Didn't plan it at all. Don't look at the sat-nav screen. So yes, when the weather gets a little bit hotter, or maybe a lot hotter, I'll be modelling my new Nox mesh jacket, and we'll be trying to suck my gut in. Although it is a pretty slim fit, so it's probably going to squeeze my gut in rather than me have to hold it in. Hopefully I can dispense with these cars before I get to my favourite corner. Sake. Thanks for watching, if you got this far. If you liked the video, please consider clicking the thumbs up button. If you generally like the content of the channel, please consider subscribing and turning on the notifications so that when I get around to releasing another video, you'll get to hear about it. Ride safe, everyone, and hopefully I will see you next time.